There's a scene early in Waltz with Bashir where a soldier describes a recurring dream. 26 dogs, vicious and yellow-eyed, chase him through the streets of Tel Aviv. Always 26, never 25, never 27. He knows why. During the Lebanon War, his unit went house to house in villages and someone had to shoot the dogs before they could alert anyone inside. He shot 26 dogs, one for every nightmare. The film, directed by Ari Folman, is about what happens when you can't quite remember doing something terrible, or more accurately, when you almost remember, when the shape of it haunts you, but the details dissolve the moment you reach for them. Folman fought in the 1982 Lebanon War as a 19-year-old Israeli soldier. He has memories of being there, swimming in the ocean at night, standing on a beach at sunrise, but he can't remember why he was there or what happened just beyond the frame. So he does what any documentary filmmaker would do. He starts interviewing people, old friends from his unit, a psychologist, a reporter who was present, except he doesn't film them with cameras, he animates them. And that choice to render trauma and testimony as stylised, golden-hued, rotoscoped figures is the whole point, because memory isn't a filing cabinet, it's a PR department. The animation in Waltz with Bashir looks like a graphic novel dipped in amber. Figures move with a kind of stiff fluidity. Backgrounds glow with unnatural warmth, and the lighting always feels just a little off, like sunset stretched too long. It's beautiful, hypnotic even, which is exactly the problem. Folman knows what he's doing. Animation softens things. It creates distance. You can watch a drawn figure describe unspeakable violence, and your brain processes it differently than if you were watching a human face. The medium itself becomes a kind of buffer, a psychological airbag between you and the thing being described. And for most of the film, that works. You float through these reconstructed memories, soldiers partying on a boat, tracer fire lighting up Beirut like a fireworks show, a man waltzing down a bullet-riddled street with an assault rifle and a poster of Bashir Gemayel. It's dreamlike, poetic, almost mythic. And then the film reminds you that myths are just stories we tell to avoid dealing with the bodies. The massacre at Sabra and Shatila is at the centre of Waltz with Bashir, even when it's not on screen. It's the black hole the entire film orbits around. In September 1982, a Christian militia entered 2 Palestinian refugee camps in Beirut and spent 3 days killing civilians. Estimates range from hundreds to thousands. Israeli forces who controlled the area did not stop them. Some lit flares at night so the militiamen could see better. Folman was there nearby, at least, close enough that not remembering feels like a choice. And so the film becomes an investigation, not of what happened, because history already documented that, but of how it's possible to be present for an atrocity and retain almost no memory of it. One interviewee, a psychologist, explains it clinically: dissociation, the mind's way of protecting itself. You compartmentalise, you narrate yourself as a passenger in your own story, as you focus on small details, the weight of your rifle, the sound of the ocean, the way the sunrise looked, and you let the larger horror exist just outside your peripheral vision. Another soldier describes standing on a rooftop, watching the camps burn in the distance and feeling nothing. Not horror, not guilt, just a vague sense that something was happening over there. Someone else's problem, someone else's decision. Memory isn't a filing cabinet, it's a PR department, and sometimes it gets very good at its job. What makes Waltz with Bashir so quietly devastating is that it understands complicity not as a grand moral failure, but as a series of small erasures. Nobody in the film is twirling a moustache. Most of them are just young men who were told where to stand and what to guard. They didn't pull triggers, they didn't give orders, they were just there, adjacent to horror. And adjacency, the film suggests, is its own kind of participation. Folman interviews a reporter who is inside the camps after the massacre. She describes the smell, the silence, the flies. She describes finding a woman and baby both dead and feeling furious, not at the killers, but at the Israeli soldiers standing nearby, watching her document it. They were eating chocolate, she says, not because they were monsters, because the brain does strange things. When confronted with incomprehensible violence, it defaults to the banal. You eat chocolate, you think about going home, you let the animation do the work of making it all feel a little less real. And then, in the final minutes, the animation stops. Folman cuts from his stylised reconstruction to actual archival footage grainy. Documentary images of the massacre's aftermath. Real bodies, real faces, real grief. No golden glow, no rotoscoping, no aesthetic buffer. Just the thing itself, unmediated. It's a devastating shift. Suddenly you realise the entire film has been a kind of negotiation, an attempt to approach the unbearable through the safety of fiction. And in one cut, that safety is revoked. History never dies. It just waits for better lighting. There's a theory in psychology that traumatic memories don't encode the same way normal memories do. They bypass the hippocampus, the part of the brain that organises events into coherent narratives, and lodge themselves as fragments. Images, sounds, sensations, no context, no timeline, no story. Waltz with Bashir is structured like that. It's non-linear, impressionistic, built from pieces that don't quite fit together. Folman isn't reconstructing the truth. He's reconstructing a truth, his brain's version of it, filtered through 25 years of forgetting and reframing and trying to make sense of what it means to have been there when people needed you to be anywhere else. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the film isn't about recovering a lost memory. Maybe it's about realising that the memory was never really lost. It was just repackaged, turned into dreams, into abstractions, into beautiful animated sequences that let you watch yourself from a distance and pretend you were someone else. Sometimes the mind protects you by lying. The problem is it gets a little too good at it. At the end of the day, Waltz with Bashir is a film about a man trying to figure out whether he's guilty of something. Not legally, there's no trial here, no verdict, but morally, existentially. And the film never gives him, or us, a clean answer. Because guilt doesn't work that way, responsibility doesn't work that way. You can be present for something terrible and not cause it. You can fail to stop something without having the power to stop it. You can remember and forget at the same time. The animation was never the problem. The animation was the point. It's what we do. We take unbearable realities and turn them into something easier to process. We aestheticize, we abstract, we tell ourselves stories about dogs and sunrises and how we were just following orders or just standing nearby or just trying to survive. And eventually, if we're lucky or unlucky, the fiction collapses and we're left with footage that won't let us look away. The buck never stops, but the animation does.